Hi. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's talk about love on Valentine's Day. Let's talk about love without the illusion. So Valentine's Day has a very particular pressure to it. It's not loud, it's not aggressive, but it's just quietly insistent. You're supposed to feel something, preferably love, preferably joy, preferably certainty, all these wonderful emotions going on in your body and in your mind and in your emotions. Exhausting. And if you feel flat, detached, sceptical, lonely or irritated, then something must be wrong with you. With you, with your relationship, with your capacity to love. That assumption alone causes more suffering than the absence of romance ever could. Because love, stripped of all the mythology and all the romance, is not a moral achievement. It's not a measure of depth. It's not proof that your mind is meaningful or on track. Spinoza defined love very simply. Love is pleasure, accompanied by the idea of an external cause. That's it. Gives you a pleasant change in the body and a thought about who produced it or what produced it. There's no destiny, no sacred bond, no guarantee of truth. And once you see that, Valentine's Day looks very different. When you study psychology and neuroscience, you see that they don't correct Spinoza. They confirm what he says. What we call romantic love just activates the brain's reward systems. It's chemical. Dopamine increases, your attention narrows, motivation intensifies, and serotonin drops in ways that look remarkably similar to obsessive states. And that's why love feels consuming, not because it's profound, but because it hijacks your focus. Oxytocin and bonding hormones strengthen attachment, especially under conditions of uncertainty, novelty, stress, and intermittent reward. Which is why unstable relationships so often feel extraordinarily meaningful. Intensity is mistaken for depth, but intensity is just arousal, and arousal is not insight or love in the romantic sense. We rarely love people for who they really are. We love the effect they have on us, how they regulate us, distract us, smooth us, stimulate us, or mirror something familiar from the past. Spinoza was explicit about this. We're conscious of our feelings, but ignorant of their causes. And love is one of the places we most aggressively protect that ignorance. Because if you really understood why you loved someone, the feeling would lose its authority. It would stop being a command and become a condition. And many people don't want that kind of freedom. They want surrender. They want relief from self-regulation. They want something outside themselves to carry meaning. Love does that very effectively, for a while. Studies on misattributed arousal show how easy attraction forms. Fear, loneliness, excitement, relief, stress. The body is already activated, and the mind supplies a romantic story, an explanation to go with it. This must be love. No, this is physiology looking for a story. But Valentine's Day encourages us to treat that story as sacred, as evidence, as proof that what we feel must be honoured, followed, defended. And this is where suffering begins. Not because love ends, but because we demand permanence from something accidental and something temporary. Philosophers other than Spinoza were far less sentimental than modern culture pretends. Schopenhauer saw romantic love as biology, disguising reproduction as destiny. Nietzsche saw love as a subtle struggle for power and self-expansion. Even Aristotle understood that most love is rooted in pleasure or usefulness, not virtue. However, Spinoza went further. He argued that when love arrives passively from causes we do not understand, it binds us. It makes us dependent, fearful, reactive. We become afraid of losing the feeling that this person gave us, not of the person themselves. That fear is then renamed devotion. So what happens if we stop idealising love? Nothing collapses. What collapses is the pressure. You can enjoy pleasure without converting it into meaning. You can feel affection without narrating destiny. You can care deeply without pretending it guarantees anything. Love doesn't need to be eternal to be real. It doesn't need to be dramatic to be sincere. And it doesn't need Valentine's Day to justify itself. Love is pleasure. Accept it. Be in it. Enjoy it. But don't romanticise it and make out it's something else. Because most of what passes for romance is simply the nervous system enjoying regulation or stimulation. And the mind is building an identity around it. Once you see that, you're no longer at the mercy of the feeling. You can still feel it, you just don't have to obey it. So if today brings you flowers, longing, grief, indifference, resentment, or even silence, none of it needs interpretation. None of it proves anything about your worth or your capacity to love or feel pleasure. Feelings arise, bodies change, and stories follow. You don't need to reject pleasure and love. You just don't need to worship it either. Enjoy the pleasure, acknowledge the cause, and refuse the illusion. That's a far more stable foundation than romance ever was. Thank you.